One. You're live.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, our Wednesday night edition on the Fightnwords Network. I'm Don Henderson. We have our normal group of people around the country to talk about what's happening in the world of sports. I have not had a chance to find out from our executive producer before we start. Is there any dedications that you would like to give tonight, Frank Carroll?
Yeah, we just want to thank all our listeners. We had another banner year last year. So we want to say thank you to everybody that listens. We especially want to say a very happy birthday to one guy who listens every week. And that's the PGA president of Philadelphia chapter, Mike Cole. And today's Mike's birthday.
And of course, yes, indeed. And of course, we were going to do a little ceremonial last week. Sports Writers Banquet is going on right now in the city of Philadelphia. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the program. And I've got a tremendous diet today for this year's dinner, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's run right down to Tampa, Florida. Roy Cummings always leads off the program for us. We'll do it again tonight. And Roy, a lot of good things. Let's switch a little bit from the pro game, though, to that college football game that was played on Monday night. It was really quite something.
Yeah, it really was. I have a hard time believing that at the beginning of the college football season, anyone really would have suggested that Miami and Indiana would be in the championship game, and it would be as good a game as it was. I mean, both teams really given everything they have in that game, and obviously goes Indiana's way, which just a tremendous story. Just a great sports story, overall, great human interest story. Obviously, a great college football story. Everything you could ask for came out of that game in terms of entertainment value and interest. And I got to think that game transcended college football a little bit. I have to believe there were a lot of people, maybe not college football fans, who found a reason to tune into that. And if they did, I can't imagine they weren't greatly entertained by it. It was just a really good game all the way around in every possible facet that you could imagine. And it's further proof, guys, back on the sports end of things, that it's pretty clear that, it took a while. There's still maybe some tweaking to be done, but the college football playoff system works, and it works very well. As I said, there's still some tweaking to be done. It could be made a little bit better, but at the end of the day, you certainly can't argue with a game that good and two teams that played at such a high level when it mattered most through the playoffs to get there. 10th seeded Miami, top seeded Indiana. Neither one was obviously in that position beginning of the year, and it was just, and they had to beat well-established, traditionally powerful teams to get there, and they did it. And that's what makes it great, is they had to knock off Ohio State, they had to knock off Alabama, somebody had to, beat Texas. They're just, there were a lot of big victories along the way that maybe not everybody saw, and it just made the whole playoff system just must-watch sports TV for sure.
And the other thing was that a lot of surprises Roger and I talked about, of course, during the weekend as well. But Kirk Zanetti, who really came out of nowhere, is a young man that one reason I even knew who he was, to be honest with you, because he lives in Burlington, North Carolina. He doesn't live there now. He's in Indiana, but he lived in Burlington, North Carolina. He came out of a very low school standard-wise to get started. He went to Elon right outside of Burlington, moved to Burlington, North Carolina, then on to James Madison, where my son went, and then, of course, from there to Indiana. And he brought 13 players over with him from James Madison, and at the same time, the four top players, and the things they're talking about right now, that those four top players who were all bypassed when it came to going to major schools and wound up going there, and he brought them out to Indiana, and he became, of the 13 players that he brought over, he became the stars of the team. So, Roger, you can never tell whether you come out of Division 1, 2, 3, or wherever. There are a lot of great players out there that if you get the right guy coaching you, puts you in the right spot, you're a star.
Well, you're right about that, and that James Madison was in the playoffs because they won their conference. And of course, many years ago, like I used to go to James Madison to do Drexel games in the CAA. And I can remember when it was James Madison and Villanova fighting for that what I call the 1AA or the double what is it, the 2A. I guess it's what is it now? The SBS, right? They changed the name, but it was always like Division 1, Division 2, and Villanova, of course, we were very familiar with because of what they did in the Patriot League and all, and refused to go back into the Big East and go into Division 1. So it's really something to talk about coming out of some of these schools that don't have the opportunity to recruit as much as the other schools do, and still to get 13 players to go to Indiana and 4 of them to become, chance to be All-Americans. Well, fellas, that you probably already saw it, that the younger Mendoza quarterback is already on his way out of Indiana to Georgia Tech. He will be the starting quarterback at Georgia Tech next year.
Yep, his brother wins the Heisman, wins the national championship, and he leaves Indiana today, and announces he's going elsewhere. So you're exactly right. And I think, Roy, I'd like to get your comment on this one, and that is that I thought there were 3 plays. I thought that the entire game, well, first of all, I just thought the whole, granted they're playing in an area where the weather was perfect, there was no rain, sleet, snow, rain, all that. I thought it really destroyed the National Football League playoff picture, that the conditions were so poor, and there were so many, poor Allen with the three turnovers and interceptions and fumbles, the worst game he said he ever played in his life. And I felt badly about that. But I thought in this game, if you charted it, you'd have to say that those teams were basically as even as you could possibly get to get to a point where one team would win it. What did you think?
Yeah, there was a time. I mean, I thought that game could easily go to overtime. Talk about the championship game in college football again. I mean, both teams really strong in the trenches. Both defenses were really, really good in this game. I mean, Mendoza got hit and sacked more times in this game than he had been maybe all year. It seemed he was hit a lot in this game. He had to adjust to that, obviously. Wasn't quite used to it because his line had protected him so well. Carson Beck, same thing. He got hit a lot, forced into a lot of quick throws and things like that. But both teams adjusted as well. And when you were talking about what came from James Madison, you mentioned the players, but Cignetti also brought 2 coordinators with him from James Madison. That made a big difference too. And these teams were very evenly matched, solid at every position it seems, which is what you'd expect out of a championship team. And one thing, I think the game kind of belied the fact that you had a top-ranked team against a number 10 ranked team. Those numbers didn't seem to mean very much 3/4 of the way through that game, and actually late into the fourth quarter when it was so tight. And one play was it was like one play could decide it, and boy, that one play was an incredible play by Mendoza on the quarterback keeper. But what's going on here, guys? A much bigger shift in the college football landscape is kind of underway, and we didn't have an SEC team in that championship game, and that is virtually unheard of, even in the playoff system era. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a lot of money in the Big Ten. There's going to be a lot of money in the ACC. The belief around college football is that Miami is back, and there's no reason to believe that they are not. If you can recruit as they intend to do in that Coral Gables area, that Miami area. You can get an awful lot of talent there. And Don, as you pointed out, there's talent everywhere. You know, what Signetti did at Indiana, bringing in so many people from James Madison that nobody's ever heard of, some players that didn't get a star at all, didn't get recruited by big colleges at all, is very similar.
Mendoza.
Exactly. Very similar to what happened in Colorado as well when that team came to prominence over the last couple of years. A lot of players that basically came from a smaller school, came along with their coach, and they coached them up right and showed that Deion Sanders can coach and make players look good, just like Signetti. So, I mean, you've got a lot of that going on. I think we'll see more of it. Because I think this is going to give some teams, some schools, kind of the confidence that they can go somewhere besides Penn State, Iowa, Nebraska, take your pick, Texas Tech, to find their next head coach. It doesn't have to be, LSU doesn't have to steal from Ole Miss or however you want to see it. Florida could go find somebody from somewhere else. It doesn't have to be a retread out of the SEC. If you look closely enough, you just might find that there's some pretty good coaches elsewhere. And if they can put the money together and bring in the right players, they can make a big difference in a hurry, as they did in Indiana and Miami.
I think the same thing holds true for the National Football League. I don't think you have to retread all these guys. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, there's got to be a lot of coaches out there like this young man, Signetti, who was overlooked at so many schools and finally got to Indiana, which hadn't been in the Big Ten championship game since, 1959 or something like that. And amazing. Roger, as I talked to you during the game, the one thing that most of the supposed excerpts before the game and at halftime talked about, it all comes down to mistakes and turnovers. And that was the one great thing I thought about this game, the championship game in college. The only mistakes that I thought were made by Miami, because I felt that the punt that the Miami safety decided to field on the 2-yard line rather than let it go into the end zone was the costly mistake of the game, number one, because, yes, on the next sequence of plays, Miami got the ball out to the 20-yard line, but then they were stopped and had to punt. And what happened from the punting from the 20, they had the punt blocked, and it turns into a touchdown, for Indiana. I thought those two plays were the two. And every time you talk to any of the coaches, they tell you it's mistakes and turnovers. If you make mistakes and turnovers, you lose games. And that's exactly what happened. And, of course, as Roy just indicated, the quarterback draw, or whatever you want to call it, was, 12 yards out. And it was just a remarkable play. So the two poor plays, I thought, were made by Miami, which cost them the touchdown on the blocked punt. And, of course, they couldn't stop the quarterback draw for the weight game-winning touchdown. Roger?
Well, he's Mendoza's some player. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Be interesting to see if he goes number one to the Raiders. But the other one was obviously another mistake, the end of the game, the interception on the drive that could have become if they could have kicked a field goal, tie it up, going to OT. So, but you're right. It was amazing. I think, Don, and Roy, I'd like your opinion about this. Don brought up about the NFL and the atrocious weather conditions that the games were played in. And we talked about it. I'm sure they've talked about it. I know they say, the home fans deserve it and everything. But I got to believe that they are looking like they do for the Super Bowl to have that weekend in nicer weather around the country, picking up sites that'll bid on it. What do you think? Think that'll ever happen?
Not a chance in the world.
No.
Not going to happen, nor should it. That's what you play for. You play for that home field advantage. And if you're Buffalo, in a snowstorm, or New England in a snowstorm against Los Angeles or whatever, you want that edge. That's what you play for that edge. The games are sloppy because the teams are kind of sloppy. I don't think the weather had much to do with it. It was just, young quarterbacks making horrible mistakes used to seeing, and I don't think it had anything to do with the weather. I mean, Josh Allen's played in worse weather than he played in this particular playoff game, and he's had much better performances. LA didn't seem to be bothered at all by the weather, and if LA happened to win one more game, well, then they would have hosted the game themselves. No, that's not going to happen until you get to the championship game. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm a fan of bad weather football. I think it adds more intrigue to it. I don't need a perfect setting for everybody. You typically get that in the Super Bowl, although I certainly remember a Super Bowl in Miami where there was a downpour for a good half of the game or more. And that made it. But, that's
the canopy, I know it well, the canopy collapsed on me. I know it very well, that Super Bowl game.
So you suffered more than most. But
the last row of the auxiliary press box.
Yeah,
and the
but
canopy.
no, I mean, first of all, there's too much money to be lost by individual owners at those home games. Again, that's another thing you play for. And look at it. I mean, what do we got? What do we have this week? I think it's going to be. You're going to have a game where Seattle, and we're the home venues. I don't think the weather's going to be too bad this weekend, is it? What is it? Well, in New England, I guess it'll be pretty ugly. But but again, that's the game. That's the game. And
it's going to be bad, Roy, in a lot of areas, like here.
Well, I don't disagree with either one of you about the home field advantage and the fact that's what you play for. But, I mean, looking at the series of games over the weekend, there were just so many things that went wrong. It just seems to me that, and I agree with you 100%, Roy, they're never going to change it because the owners, that's what they're playing for. They want the home field advantage. They want to play in their place. Although I will say this, I can't imagine how Buffalo could have had the record they've had over the last 8 or 9 years with McDermott as their coach, as their coach, and then fire the guy the next day over what happened. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't make any sense to me either. That seemed like a very odd move there. Your quarterback obviously just had a bad game at the worst of all possible times. I don't see how he feels since he lost out on John Harbaugh. I don't see how he possibly believes he can get a better coach. I don't think, I'm with you. It didn't make any sense to me. And the other thing I want to say about the home field advantage thing, that's a reward to the fans, too. Now, look, some of us may not look at the opportunity of sitting in 6-degree temperatures in a blizzard, or snow coming down or rain coming down torrentially as a reward. But at the end of the day, you roll the dice and that's what you get. I think those people would much rather sit through 6-degree temperatures in a blizzard than have to either watch it on TV in another venue. Certainly a venue like Atlanta. If that's not the city that won the opportunity to host the game, a neutral site's not going to make those fans feel better. It's a reward to the fans as well, because they want to see their teams, in person and witness that history of their team. I mean, we've all had those moments as sports fans or broadcasters or sports writers or whatever it is, where we can say, "Hey, I was there for that," and that's what sports fans want to be able to say. When you sit down at the end of the day, as a sports fan, you want to be able to say, "Yeah, I was there for that. I remember that. I was there. I saw it happen live." And you don't want to take that away from anybody. So that's another reason why I won't. But again, I think it's just interesting to me that there were mistakes made, but there were mistakes made. Obviously, we just pointed out in a perfect setting. Carson Beck made a horrible throw in the most critical period of the game against Indiana. Certainly not going to blame the weather on that. It's just in those critical moments, guys. It's just like a golfer trying to make that putt for the $3 million payout at the Open, whatever it might be. Those are tough moments, and that's where you find out who the real superstars are and who the other guys.
Roger, before we leave the National Football League and go to something else, I thought going to the college championship game, but I thought the Bears game was the best of all the playoff games that I saw over the weekend. Maybe you two fellas disagree a little bit, but I thought the Bears game was great. I don't know how he made that last throw to tie the game to send it in overtime. I have no idea. Where he had three guys chasing him across the field. He throws the ball across the field to the left corner and winds up getting with a touchdown and tying the game up and going into overtime. Roger, we'll start with you. What do you think of the Bears game?
I thought it was the best too, and that kid is a tremendous quarterback and is just developing more and more. But I think that you also have seen that there are some quarterbacks that have great potential and are here to stay, and there's others that are still developing, and you don't know whether they will ever reach their full potential. I did want to say, Don, I'm with you on the good old boy network on the coaches. It looks like Brian Daboll might be the new coach of Buffalo because he was there before he went to the Giants, and also the 49ers defensive coordinator who was with the Jets. It looks like he's gotten another shot. I just don't get it. I mean, if you can tell, if you don't have a whole lot of talent and you coach for 3 years, it tells you whether you've got it or you don't have it. And just to give a guy another shot right away after he's been out a year, I think there's too much talent out there that you don't have to do retreads.
Roy?
Yeah, first of all, on the Bears game, I think it was the broadcasters, one of them, I can't remember which one, said, after a great weekend of pro football, this is the main event. And you know what? It lived up to the hype. It absolutely did in every facet. It was a great game. And you're right, that throw by Caleb Williams, had the Bears won, guys, that would have gone down in history as one of the greatest. It should still, but because the Bears lost, it doesn't have the same impact, obviously. But if the Bears win that game, they'd still be talking about that play, every day, all day. It would go down in history as one of the greatest clutch plays of all time, right up there with the Music City Miracle and some of the others. It would have been the Midway Miracle, and it was just that special of a game, because you know what? The other thing we saw there, we saw a team blossom. Really, I mean, we kind of watched it throughout the course of the year, if you followed the Bears at all. But we saw Caleb Williams really come into his own in that game at the highest pressure situation he's ever faced so far as a pro quarterback, and and the team around him flourished as well, and that was great to see. So there's a lot to be seen there going forward with that team. A lot of people thought the Rams were the better team at the end of the day, and I think they were, and that's who ended up winning the game. So it went about the way it should have gone, but it had a lot of splash going with it. And again, for people like me, the snow in the first half made it a little bit more fun. I don't think it affected the play much, but it provided another element of intrigue that I think kept everybody glued to their TVs for a while.
Well, Roger, I thought the big thing about it was that, first of all, he's running 3 players chasing him down and going right to left. And then he's got to throw the ball to the left corner all the way down in the end zone, at the back of the end zone. I mean, there's not very many quarterbacks that, I don't see him play that much, so I don't know exactly how strong his arm is. But, man, oh, man, to make that throw, I mean, that was incredible to me.
Oh, it was. It's a throw that will never be forgotten. I mean, he was just going backwards and to unload that, but to know that the guy was going to be there and for the guy to make the catches was phenomenal. It was unbelievable.
And 60 yards downfield. I mean, it wasn't like he threw it 23 yards, you know. I mean, he threw that 60 yards in the air. And
Right.
The thing I didn't understand, guys, is how one of those defensive backs wasn't plastered to that receiver in that situation. I mean, you can't be looking at the ball there. You've got to remember your discipline, remember your keys, and somebody is assigned to that receiver, and somebody, as they say, you know, in the NFL, you got to plaster yourself to him. You've got to be right on him like wallpaper on a wall, and somebody, and both of them stepped away and made that play possible. So how, you know, Williams, I got to believe that in the moment he threw it, he thought this is an absolute Hail Mary situation, but the defensive backs helped him out a little bit by coming up on the play and not sticking with the receiver, obviously. So, but just again, a great play, and here we are talking about it still, and that's just how great it was.
I mean, he makes a great play, and not only that, but I mean, as you indicated, and I don't see how anybody else could misjudge it. I mean, you only had 8 seconds to go and a half. I mean, the game. I mean, you just don't want the guy to make a catch in the end zone. Where are the defensive players in that situation? You can't let a guy in the back of the end zone all by himself.
This is Steve.
Hey, Steve, it's Frank. How you doing?
Good.
Good. How's Buddy doing?
Buddy's doing much better. The antibiotic we've had him on didn't work, and the new one seems to have worked. So,
Oh, good. Good. I can hear him in the background there. That's good.
oh, that's Maggie. That's the little 2.5-year-old little rat terrier.
Okay. I'll put you in my live. We're just finishing up with Roy.
Okay.
You cannot be ball hungry. You have got to stick to your keys and stick like wallpaper to a wall to that receiver, because you can't let him get away from you like that. Just such a big, space between the two of them that made the play possible.
Well, before we leave the NFL, we got big games coming up this weekend to determine who's going to go to the Super Bowl. Roger, we'll start with you. Give us your picks on the 2 big games and what's going to happen.
Well, originally I would have taken Denver at home, but Bo Nix is gone. He had, I think, a broken ankle, and he's already had surgery.
Broken and dislocated, both.
And dislocated. So he's gone. And so I'm picking the Patriots to win the AFC, and I've got to stay with Seattle. The way they manhandled San Francisco 2 out of the last 3 weeks, and the Eagles could not do anything with to speak up with San Francisco. So I pick Seattle and New England in the Super Bowl.
Roy?
Yeah, I definitely believe that New England will win. It's really unfortunate that Denver has the situation it has a quarterback, but I wouldn't put it past look, don't forget, the Broncos have an exceptional defense. More sacks out of this group than we ever saw out of the Denver defense before. They will certainly get after Drake May and make his life a bit miserable at times, if not throughout the entire game. So that could end up being a big key here. And, Jeff Stidham, well, we'll see. You know what? The coach in Denver has a history of putting together some pretty good game plans for quarterbacks and in situations where he doesn't have his best players available to him. So let's see what happens again this time with him. So not going to count Denver out, but I still think New England's got the edge there and a win. But I'm going to go a little bit against my gut, and my heart, and my thinking here, and I'm going to say that LA's going to win in Seattle. I just sort of get the feeling that the experience they have in the playoffs might just give them a bit of an edge. I don't. There's no question that Seattle has they've flown under the radar, and they've met every challenge. The quarterback is exceptional. The Jets just have to be kicking themselves repeatedly for letting the kid get away. But at the end of the day, I just think that the history and the experience that LA has in games like this is going to pay off for them. I think they'll figure out a way to win this game. We'll see if it happens, but boy, it should be a good one, that's for sure. Both of them should be really good.
Well, I know our good friend from the Tribune down in Sarasota, Doug Fernandez, is sort of smiling a little bit. He picked New England to go all the way to the Super Bowl, and right now they've got a great chance to get there. And I have to agree with you, Roger. I just think the fact that you lose your quarterback, although I think the coaching edge experience-wise obviously goes to Denver, but what a job New England has done during the whole course, and what Vrabel's done all year with that ball club. So I think New England, but I'm going to disagree with you, Roy. I just think Seattle's a little bit better, and playing in that facility out there is very, very tough. So I'm going to go with Seattle and New England to get to the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens from there. Well, let's switch over to baseball for a second. The Hall of Fame yesterday. Roy, we'll start with you. Two players everybody picked to get to the Super Bowl or to get to the Hall of Fame, and they got there. And all the rest of them sort of saw it on the sidelines. Your thoughts?
I think they got it right yet again. I like the picks. There's always going to be the arguments about who didn't get in, but as usual, it should be more about who did get in. And look, Carlos Beltran, pretty hard to argue with that, really. And Andrew Jones, Roger, you can speak a lot to that, having been in Atlanta a while. But look, these are two guys that, when you look at the numbers, it's just hard to deny. They're right there. I mean, they're as good as anybody could be. They were, there were times when you could say that they were the best players in baseball during, while they were playing. So I think they're both deserving, and happy for both of them, obviously.
Hey, Don, Stevie's on. Stevie's on with us too.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Stevie's on with us too. He may have something.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, well, I'll just to follow up about Andrew Jones. A discussion today with Christopher Mezzo Russo and Bob Costas was about Andrew Jones, and he did not have 2,000 hits, and he has a lifetime 254 average, and they were saying, and as I say, because I'm from a generation ago or two or three, that he is not what I would have looked at as a Hall of Famer. But I'm looking at it because of the great Hall of Famers that I got to see, as pretty much all of us have, with, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Rich Ashburn, people like that in center field, Stan Musial. So
let's get Steve in here, and Steve Kinsella, of course, is our baseball expert. Nobody knows more about statistics than Steve does. And Steve, as we bring you in, 10 consecutive Gold Gloves is quite an honor to get you started to get into the Hall of Fame, and he's got some numbers to go with it. You know the numbers better than all of us. Your thoughts?
Yeah, congratulations to Andrew Jones and Beltran, but putting that much emphasis on Andrew Jones' defensive game to land him in the Hall of Fame, and then you can bail it Omar Vizquel with 2,800 hits, and he's not sniffing the Hall of Fame right now with a plethora of Golden Gloves in his back pocket. It's kind of surprising, but like Roy had said, there's arguments for and against everybody. My threshold for the Hall of Fame is pretty high, so I'm generally not too excited about who gets in. I'm probably more along the lines of my expectations for Hall of Fame are a little bit higher than most people. So,
Roger? Well, I think that's my point. I think that's what we all agree, that your expectations are higher than what we saw. Let me ask you this, Steve. What about Chase Utley? I didn't see the voting, but I do know that the Bill Madden did not vote for either one of them. He said that because he talked to Costas and told him who he voted for, and it was a pitcher who had pitched the perfect game, and Mark Breckley or something like that, I think. But anyway, your opinion. I think that Chase Utley is a Hall of Famer. What do you think?
I think he'll probably get in next year. I agree with you. I think he is going to be in.
I wouldn't anywhere close to the Hall of Fame.
No, you don't think he's a Hall of Famer?
No, he wasn't a very good defender. He was a gritty guy. He's a Hall of Fame if you want to include grittiness. If you want to include, hard play, running the ball hard and playing hard and being a red ass is what they call those guys. But he doesn't even have 2,000 hits. He doesn't have 275 home runs. He doesn't have a Gold Glove. He doesn't have anything. He's got a few All-Star games, but he really has a resume that's just not Hall of Fame to me. He's not Ryan Sandberg out there at second base. That to me is a Hall of Famer. Now, if you want to compare people to guys like Ryan Sandberg from my day, that'd be fine. But that would be my second base template right there.
I talked a lot about the guys that just missed, Roy. Obviously, Cole Hamels is up there. Abreu is up there. Vazquez, you just mentioned a moment ago, is certainly very much up there. And Fernando Rodriguez is very much up there. And as John Heyman pointed out in the post yesterday, a lot of guys that would be close because of the drugs, obviously. Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, Andy Pettit, Ryan Braun. Those players are still being eliminated from any chance of being in the Hall of Fame as of this moment. So, Roy, you got any comment on any of that?
Roy's gone.
Oh, he's gone? Okay.
Yeah. The only guy in that group that I don't believe being treated very unfairly is Andy Pettit. And maybe he got hopped on a test, but he wasn't in the high steroid days. And then I think he's being unfairly punished. The guy wasn't a flamethrower or anything like that. 256 wins, an ERA around 3.45 or something around there over a 18-year career. That's the one guy. Like, for instance, Manny Ramirez should never see the Hall of Fame. He failed drug tests 3 different times. So that's ridiculous. And also, when it comes to the steroids, anybody in the 90s that was doing, I don't care, Major League Baseball turned a blind eye. Everybody was using steroids. After the 90s, if you got popped after the 90s, if you were involved in the Belco or if you were involved in the, like Manny Ramirez, getting popped, and you signed with the Rays and got popped for the third time, I have no sympathy for those guys. But those guys back in the 90s made baseball billions of dollars and spread the popularity of the sport after the 94 debacle of losing the World Series. And Bud Selig and the rest of all the owners, everybody knew what was going on. Performance enhancers were big in baseball all the way through 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with the Rays. Everybody knew it. They used to have jars of amphetamine in the locker room for the players just to grab when they went out. In the 80s, we had the cocaine that people were using. These writers that keep these guys off the ballot, to me, they're really penalizing the sport more than they are taking a moral stand. Guys like Clemens and Pettit and even not A-Rod, because I think he was involved in Belco, but I used to be a hard ass and not want any of those guys involved. I realized what was going on behind the scenes and to penalize them for doing what everybody was doing because there was no rules against it in the game.
Right.
There was a law that you couldn't buy this stuff, but Major League Baseball didn't have a joint drug policy. So everybody was just, it was a Wild West, and now you're telling me that Roger Clemens, who was dominant and, for the first 15 years of his career, needed, steroids to be dominant, or Barry Bonds, or Rafael Palmeiro. Mark McGwire comes out of USC hits 50 homers or something his rookie year before steroids were even. So I'll say it every year. I don't want to convince the opponent on. I don't hold the players to the same standard as a lot of people do. I used to, but I've softened and changed over the last 15 years.
Steve Kinsella is our special guest this half hour, and no one knows more about the baseball statistics than Steve does. Nice enough to join us all during the regular season and so forth. Go back to Pettit, Steve, and I agree 100% in the sense that in his case, and it was really unusual, he had that late season or late career injury, and he admitted right away that he took the drugs, and so maybe that's a little bit of a plus on his side. But so far, they're not considering that. They're still considering the fact that he did, that his record was a little bit jogged because of the. But let's get to today. Let's get to the present day. All the players that are being signed as free agents, and boy, Philadelphia is right in the middle of a major controversy right now with the Mets. Your thoughts on from a statistical standpoint and a personal standpoint, how do you like what's happened in the free agent market this year so far?
Oh, it's been good. It's validating something I've tried to tell people for years. They're like, why would you sign a guy to a 10-year, $300 million deal? And I used to say, these players are worth $50 million a year. You just want to finance it out for the 10 years. You know you're going to get burned in the back. So now players are saying, hey, we want to pay up front and have another bite at the apple. So you're seeing these higher dollar values on short-term deals, which is the way baseball should be. I mean, players in their prime should get paid and not financed out for 10 or 12 years. That's just my opinion. But I like everything. It's not fun for about 15 to 18 organizations who aren't involved in the fun of those. That's the baseball problem. If you're a Rays, Brewers, Cleveland, we can go through all the teams that really aren't part of the Major League Baseball offseason, and can't be involved in the Major League Baseball offseason. But the teams that can be involved, the fans should be ecstatic. I mean, if you're the Mets and you land Bichette to go over to third base to go along with trading for Marcus Semien and having Lindor at short, that's a different locker room now and a different look to the lineup. And, the Phillies, I mean, I don't want to call them a consolation prize, but it's got to be feeling good to have JT Realmuto coming back after Bichette spurned Philadelphia. Kyle Tucker and the Dodgers, that lineup just looks extremely impressive. I mean, I think you're going to have Max Muncy batting 8th down there in that Dodger lineup. I mean, it's a very stout lineup now. Bellinger landing back with the Yankees today. That makes them an exciting team. He got a nice no deferred month in $160 million. So it has been a fun off season for about 14 to 15 markets that are involved in the off. You can't be upset. Now the Phillies can be upset because re-signing a Realmuto and losing out on a Bichette isn't exactly what the Phillies want.
Well, it surprised me a little bit. Brodsky thought he had Bichette all wound up at $200 million, and he winds up signing for a short-term. In other words, no long-term contract. I think it's 3 years, but he has options out, and of course, it's a lot of money too going to the Mets. But
he gets another $5 million. How do you like that,
Roger?
Well, I just have been surprised there has not been more action than there has been. But I guess now is when we'll really see it, right, Steve, in next month?
Well, with the action is just, like I say, the action is about these big players that are fine. They know what they want. There's two routes you can go. None of these guys are spur of the moment. Like Alex Bregman, had offers in front of him and ended up going with the Cubs. Which surprised the Red Sox. The offseason is all about, the agent and the players saying this is what we expect, Route 1 and Route 2. Most of the free agents have moved now. I mean, going back to Edwin Diaz over to the Dodgers, and you go over to Ranger Suarez and the Red Sox, and Bregman to the Cubs, Tucker to the Dodgers. I mean, they're moving the lower market. If that's what you're looking at, the lower market, like the Harrison Baders and stuff like that, yeah, they'll start to move now. And now the other 14 teams might have a little bit of fun over the winter and filling holes. So like a team Phillies can go get, now they can go, go get Harrison Baker. Austin Hayes is still out there, and that local player is still out there. The most interesting guy on the market right now is probably Framber Valdez. And that's an odd one that he has to sign.
Steve, as we take a look at the baseball picture coming into 26, two things. One thing, you talked about the cap, and obviously there's possibility of a strike, and hopefully that'll never happen, but who knows what's going to happen. I just hope that they can somehow get a commissioner or somebody that can step in and give some leadership to both sides and get things settled. I don't think they're going to, but I hope they do. And the cap's become a joke. I mean, the Mets don't care about the cap. The Dodgers don't care about the cap. And these poor other teams, even Baltimore made a lot of great moves, I think. I'll have to talk about Baltimore in a second. I think they've made a lot of great moves to make their team much better than it was last year. But, I mean, you're still talking about a salary cap that's way under the cap, not nowhere near what the Dodgers are doing, and the Mets are doing, and these other teams are doing, and the Yankees are doing. I know I want to talk about the Yankees too, but let's start off with, what do you think about the cap? What can they find? Can they find a common ground? What are they going to do?
No, there is no cap. There is no cap in baseball, and teams only spend what the Orioles are going to be on a $165 million payroll, which is probably right. This isn't the NFL where every team can have a cap and a floor. They have different TV contracts, so you've got 30 different markets. And each team is going to have a different spending platform based on their TV contracts and the revenue from the national TV deals. Now, this is there should be a lockout, because when free agency begins in Major League Baseball, I'll compare it to the NFL if you'd like. In the NFL, when the free agency period kicks in, all 32 teams can go after any player they want and find a way to fit them on the team. So every fan base is excited. There is no excuse if there's a player that's a free agent, a wide receiver, a running back, a linebacker, a defensive lineman that's a free agent, he can go around to 32 different teams and get the best offer he can. And there's not one team that can say we can't afford to sign you. We don't have the money. You can say we don't have the cap space, or we don't have the because of mismanagement. In baseball, you've got 30 different markets. The Dodgers, for instance, they get $330 million a year for their TV. Okay? That's what they get. Then they get $4 million in attendance, and yes, they have to split that money for attendance a little bit, But then they're owned by a conglomerate that handles about $1 trillion or $2 trillion for companies who also engage in giving them marketing deals all over the world, which they make a ton of money off of that. The Dodgers are making a ton of money on parking out there in Chavez Ravine. They're making a ton of money on concessions. So basically what you're having is you have 30 different markets, and you're asking teams, you ask yourself, why don't the Baltimore Orioles spend like the Dodgers? Well, the Baltimore Orioles get about $90 million a year at TV through Masson, which is still in court from the last 15 years between them and the Nationals. Why don't the Rays or the Brewers or the Reds or the Pirates spend like the Dodgers? Well, the Rays get about $45 to $50 million in local TV. Now, when I tell you the Dodgers are getting $330 million a year in TV revenue, that's their local package. They still get a cut of the national as well.
Right.
So, that's why the teams that spend are only spending what they should be spending. And thank God Steve Cohen bought the Mets a few years to end the game of just going up to the luxury tax. That was a big thing. All the owners had this little band of merry brothers that would say, hey, if the cap is 220, we can use that as that's all we're going to spend, and we'll pocket the rest of the money. And here comes Steve Cohen and says, no, that's ridiculous. I can go over the cap and pay the tax. I have plenty of revenue. Well, the Dodgers saw that. The Phillies saw that. The Yankees saw that. The Cubs saw that. The Blue Jays, who last year had a $260 million payroll, if you can believe it, because they're owned by a big telecommunications company. Anyways, the big problem that's going to happen in Major League Baseball for the lockout is going to be the owners have to figure out how to pool all the money like the NFL, put it together, and then offer to the players a cap and a ceiling where there's revenue sharing, where the players will have access to all the money. Now, that's been a dream since Bill Beck wanted to do with radio money, and Major League Baseball has refused. But now, instead of having the haves and the have-nots, you actually have three tiers that are arguing. You've got the top tier that's really gone crazy with the $350 million payrolls. Then you got teams that are still at like Seattle and Texas and stuff that are 170 to 220 and are tapped out. And then you've got the third tier, which is your Miami, your Tampa, your Pittsburgh, your Reds. That those fan bases are just being alienated because you're never going to see the Cleveland or the Reds sign a Kyle Tucker or Shohei Ohtani or a Vlad Guerrero or a one of those big or Juan Soto. They're just not even involved. And Major League Baseball now has a three-tier system, no longer a two-tier system. When you have teams that are spending $150 to $200 million upset at the big boys, baseball's in trouble.
Roger, Steve, you feel pretty confident that there will be a walkout, if I read you right?
Oh, baseball has to have a walkout. You cannot alienate. It's fine. It's fine and fun to call the Rays and the Reds and the Brewers and the Guardians and teams like that. It's fun to say, hey, they're cheap. They could spend more. But now you're getting into the second tier of teams that have decent TV deals that are spending $150 to $250 million that are realizing that the top of the class that have the money are blowing them away. I mean, $60 million AAV for Kyle Tucker. That woke up a lot of owners that said, wait a minute, what's going on here? We can't compete in this. So now the mid-tier is feeling the heat that the Rays and the Pirates and everybody else have been feeling for years. Now they don't like it. So now you've got about 15 teams that don't like the way the baseball's going. You can't negotiate with the players about anything until the owners get on board. Baseball needs to find a way to pool all the revenue for TV and media, maybe ticket sales, and maybe even parking. Kind of what the NFL does is they have a package. They put this package together, and the first thing that the players in the NFL agree on is is this pie what we're going to agree on? And they say yes. And then what they fight about is what percentage of the pie gets divided into the salary cap. Okay? Baseball needs to do that. They have to present to the players, here is the pie of money. We're going to offer you 50, usually in NFL it's about 49 to 52% that the players get. And they'll offer the Major League Baseball players 49 to 52% of this pie. That'll be divided by 30. And then you say, okay, this will be the cap and this will be the floor. And that's now everybody's on even footing. But the problem is going to come, how do you unwind the current payrolls? So when does that kick in? Like, you can't put the salary cap and the floor in and then make the Dodgers trade 4 or 5 guys. So it's going to be very complicated. There's no easy solution. I can tell you one thing, baseball can't keep going where it used to be fun to make fun of the Rays and the Pirates and teams like that and call them cheap. Now you're calling teams that only spend $150 million or $175 million, and people are raising an eyebrow because the Phillies and the Blue Jays and the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees are spending north of $300.
But Steve, my question, Steve, to you is, do they have the leadership to do this? Well, either the Players Association or the Commissioner of Baseball, do they have the kind of leadership that's going to get people to the table to put down the numbers that you're talking about and how they're going to make a solution come to the fore? Do they have the people to do it?
The players don't need to do anything. The players are extremely happy with being able to have access to all the
Right.
So it's all on the owners. And you talk about leadership. There isn't a messiah that's going to come and convince the Dodgers that $330 to $500 million that they have needs to be chopped in half and put into a big pot. The big boys, basically you're looking at an A league and a B league, and if Major League Baseball wants to divide it up that way, and maybe have maybe have 15 teams be part of like an NIT at the end of the year, and then let the other 15 teams that can afford baseball be in a different league. There is no messiah that's going to come in with leadership ability to convince everybody. the cold hard reality of a long work stoppage for a long time is the only thing that's gonna make this work. Only thing. I mean, it could be a full year like the NHL. But Major League Baseball needs to bring the fans back into the fold in half of their cities. Then they want to expand to 2 more cities, which, you know, the expansion fee would be about $2 billion each. So, you know, they got to get off their ass. But baseball can't keep going where only fans in Philadelphia and a few other cities are happy during the off season. You know, and then during the season, you know, you're trading away players and everybody's watching the dollars. And then you see the NFL, which is the model that Major League Baseball needs to somehow adopt.
Well, Roger, let's get back to your point. The Steves actually see no way, no solution without a strike.
Right, and I don't either. But I don't see that it's ever going to get settled the way Steve, you want it. I mean, the NFL, Pete Rozelle was the one that came in and said, okay, we've got to pool everything. And he was a strong commissioner. And I think they have a pretty a good commissioner now, in my opinion. But I think a lot of it's marketing because the only thing that's pooled is the national TV. But it's a whole different ball game when you have 17 games a year, 18 weeks. And you have all the networks doing it versus where you have games every night of the week. And you have it on many outlets. You got TBS.
Frank, what's happening?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm going to turn my television down right now.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, you may want to make light of the fact that since Mr. Henderson couldn't go on last week, that he had Verizon turn off all the phones.
So did I, but I had a California number, so I wasn't impacted by it.
Oh, good. We were. Okay, I'll put your mic live.
To pool money. The money was already pooled. They just came up with the pairing to establish the cap. The NFL has never had. The NFL would never be the way it is. For instance, if they didn't have their games on CBS and NBC, that's how they got their TV money. If the Dallas Cowboys could have all 16 or 14 games back in the day on a superstation cable network, they would get, you know, in today's money, they would get like $250 million for that. Okay? Now, Green Bay Packers in that market, on their TV deal, would have only got about $40 million in today's money, you know, to broadcast the Green Bay Packers in that little market. You know, the Raiders would get money. These other teams would get more money, and football would never be able to have what they had. But football got lucky in the fact that they had contracts with just the national, you know, NBC. So I'm going back to my youth here, guys. I believe it was CBS.
Yeah, CBS and ABC Monday Night Football.
ABC was Monday Night Football. So they had the, you know, but they never had local money. When Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys, the big gripe that all these owners had was everybody had the very lucrative radio contracts. And if you can believe it, if you ever want to go down a black hole or go down a rabbit hole of what the hell are they talking about, the Cowboys didn't want to share any of their radio money. They had a huge radio contract that was paying them a lot of money. And the Browns had a huge radio contract up there on 3WE, you know, 1,100 watts, you know, whatever.
Right. The Cardinals and the Rams, KMOX.
Yeah.
In St. Louis.
50,000 watt clear show.
Yeah. Yeah, they all had huge radio contracts, and one thing that had to happen, that was a big driver of getting the money pooled because, you know, and I remember I don't want to drone on, but Mike Brown was the big villain. You know, everybody said, as you brought up about marketing, Jerry Jones went after Mike Brown and said he has 2 guys in his marketing department. He wants to take my money.
Let's jump ahead. Let's jump ahead. We're running out of time. We only got about 4 minutes left here. You're so close with the Rays and what's going on in Tampa and what's going on in Orlando and what's happening. Where do they stand? I mean, I know they're going to play this year at the Trop. What happens? What's the situation? What do you see in the future right now for a team that really was only spending 75 to 90 million a year?
Yeah, they'll continue to spend 75 to 90 million a year until they get a TV deal or revenue sharing increases. There's not going to be a reason to spend more. I mean, they're kind of capped at the dollars are at. But the stadium issue, it looks like they got a nice an agreement. You know, they have to get the financing together. But the guy that bought the team is a real estate guy. I'm sure he's pretty smooth. But 110 acre plot over there by Legends or Steinbrenner Field. It's on the Hillsborough Community College campus. 110 acres. They're going to rebuild an entire college center. The Hillsborough Community College is getting a whole new college education corridor, which will also include them keeping total control of that education corridor. It's going to include a lot of housing, a lot of bars, a lot of nightclubs. It's modeled after the Battery in Atlanta. So now they've already come to the agreement, and now they're getting ready to put the pencil to paper and try to hammer out how they're going to do it. But it seems pretty promising. Like I said, this guy's a real estate guy that bought the team. You know, this is his ballpark. You know, it's his arena.
Well, you know, I think it's great, the concept of tailoring it after the Battery. But in my opinion, the Battery's overbuilt and it's too congested. So, you know, you might want to reconsider, you know, your position, making sure that you don't overbuild and make it too tight, and parking to go in a remote lot is $65.
Well, just remember that they're making $50 million a year on the Battery, and most of that is because you talk about being overbuilt. They're landlords. The Braves don't own any. They don't do anything of the businesses or anything. They don't care about the parking or any of that. As long as they have the occupancy, they're making. You know, because they're part of the. They're publicly traded. So $50 million a year is what the Battery is bringing in the Atlanta Braves. $50 million. So they're happy. They're just landlords, and you got to figure. I'm not a tax guy, but the depreciation over 20 years on all of those buildings and stuff has got to be pretty nice on the old balance ledger at the end of the year for the good old IRS.
So you've
got all these hotels and condos, I can tell you that.
Hey, Don.
Hey, as long as you have the occupancy and collect the rent payment, you know, being a landlord is the way to go, and that's what the Braves have done. You know?
right.
Hey, Don. Billy's ready.
But not leastly, optimistic. What are the fans around the country? Well, if this thing goes into a strike situation, they shut down the Major League Baseball again. What's your feeling? Is it going to come back as strong as it is now, or what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it'd be great to say doom and gloom, but sports fans is short for fanatics, and I don't think we saw it in hockey when they lost the season. We saw it in '94. It might take a little bit of time, but in the end, fans love the game. We're all attached to baseball. I am, you are, everybody on this call is attached to sports. And it brings back memories, and, you know, we all look forward to watching our team. And despite, you know, there might be a little bit of ill will originally, but I'm an optimist at heart, and I would like to think that, yeah, there could be a little pushback for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, but it'll eventually get ramped up, especially if it's like, you know, if it looks like peace and harmony could be held for many years. If there's some kind of agreement in place that the players are extremely happy and have access to money. So we'll see. But I have faith in fans, and I have faith in it's just a sport. In the end, it's just a sport. It takes our time. It takes our hearts. Sometimes it makes us angry. Sometimes it makes us sad. But in the end, isn't it nice to have a ball game to watch on a summer night?
Amen.
I'm with you, Steve. Thank you so very, very much, and we look forward to the next time you join us. Billy Wardell is waiting in the wings, and we got so much to talk about on the football front. But Steve, thanks so much, and another nice half hour.
Take care, Steve.
Take care.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Billy Wardell is in the wings, waiting to go. And Bill, before we come to the present day, you and I chatted earlier today on your show. I like to go back a couple of weeks because you were there with the broadcast team doing the last Philadelphia Eagle game of the 25 season. And, we look at what San Francisco did the game before the Eagles game and what they did the game after the Eagles game and then what they did during the Eagles game. And how can you explain what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions?
Disappointment, Don, to say the least. I thought going into that game, a wounded 49ers defense, and the Eagles could only put 19 points on the board. They can blame Kevin Patullo. They can blame the offensive line. They can blame Jalen Hurts. But it was a combination of everything. I looked up a stat the other day. In the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, Jalen Hurts ran 11 times for 82 yards and Super Bowl record and 1 touchdown. They never used Jalen Hurts in a running situation this year. I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe. I'm not saying he's got to run 11 times a game. 5 to 7 times a game, design runs. I'm not saying scrambles, design runs. That will open everything up for Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, go down the list. All right? They took that out of the equation. Now, when you do that, you have to expect a team's going to take a step back. And they certainly took a step back.
Roger?
Bill, I totally agree with you, and I've read a lot of articles about that the coach, the general manager, and the owner are afraid of saying anything critical about Jalen Hurts. And, Patullo, he's at fault because I'm sick and tired of seeing first down into the middle of the line over and over and over. But what do you think about some of the speculation and about some of the problems, and that the Eagles were just as soon happy to get over the season and get out of town?
Well, I certainly think if you're happy that the season's over, then why are you playing the damn game of football? You're the defending Super Bowl champion. You want to go out there and make a statement the year after the Super Bowl. You want to go out and show people it wasn't a fluke the year before, which it wasn't. Their offensive line played very well. Again, another question. Does Lane Johnson come back? He was injured for the last 8 games of the season. Will A.J. Brown return next year? Howie Roseman said he's a great player, but remember, they had a great player, supposedly, in Carson Wentz, and they moved on from him. So I think certainly the blame can be pointed to everybody in the organization. Not one person cannot be absolved from any blame. And that talks about Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, the coaching staff, the players. If you're defending Super Bowl champs, you want to at least get back to the NFC Championship game. And it was very disappointing the way this season ended.
Billy, the thing that was really upsetting to me was starting in the middle of the season, maybe even a little bit before the middle of the season, they pointed the finger at the offensive coordinator. They said we made it, or I should say we, the people on the outside pointed fingers at the offensive coordinator, said, this is a mistake. He's not the right guy to be running this offense for the Philadelphia Eagles. Your thoughts, you sorry, you know what happened? What do you think?
Let's look at this. They elevated Brian Johnson after they moved on from Frank Reich. I believe it's Frank Reich. No, it was Shane Steichen. I'm sorry. Shane Steichen took the Indianapolis job. So they promoted from within. So that backfired. They had to go out and get the coach at New Orleans, Kellen Moore. Yeah. Now this year, they promoted within. It backfired again. I mean, now Brian Dable is off the table. Mike McDonald's off the table. He's taken the job for the Chargers. Dable has an opportunity at a couple places, Buffalo and I believe Tennessee. So their 2 prime candidates to be offensive coordinators are out. So they're now going to their second tier of people. I think one thing people have to realize, that this Eagle team is a talented team. But and everybody I heard, this is the best Eagle roster coming into the season. And I said, beware. It looks good on paper, but you have to execute. And you can say the long season and all that. The Chiefs went through long season, and they went to 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Won 2 of them. All right? I don't buy that. All right? I don't buy the long season, all this stuff. I think there's so many fish to fry in this organization right now. They did not have a great offseason in free agency. They lost key free agents. They didn't at least fill some of that fill that void to a certain extent. Then they had an okay draft. So this wasn't a great offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, John Campbell played some. And then when Nakobe Dean was there, he was relegated to backup middle linebacker and outside rush guy. Makuba got hurt. Ty Robinson is a work in progress, their 4th round pick. It's going to be very important, especially with a cap, that the Eagles have a very, very productive offseason. Very important.
Roger? Yeah, the offensive coordinator situation, you just really explained the present situation. There's some talk about Charlie Weiss Jr. What do you think about that name?
Very interesting name. Of course, he is also in line to leave Mississippi to go to LSU as the offensive coordinator under Lane Kiffin. I find it very intriguing. His father was a very good offensive coordinator, not a very good head coach. But he has a very, very solid background. And certainly it's worth looking at. Now, again, if you bring a guy in like that, and he has a great deal of success, what happens? He votes for the top of the list of candidates for head coaching job. You got to find somebody, and this is the dilemma they're faced with. You got to find somebody who's going to be there for a couple of years, not one and done and on to another franchise.
Right.
Of course, they had Kellen Moore for 1 year, and he got the New Orleans job. So that's a very interesting dynamic as far as who are you going to hire, and how do we implement a better offense than we had a year ago, meaning this past year.
Billy, you look at the past history of assistant coaches for the Eagles. I mean, what Harbaugh was there for how many years? McDermott was there for how many years? I mean, you're talking about guys that are now, and whatever happened in Buffalo, how you can fire a guy that's done the job that he did up in Buffalo.
Well, here's the deal. The general manager, right after McDermott got fired, he was promoted to president of football operations. So there was a lot of infighting there in Buffalo. I mean, McDermott supposedly said in a meeting, you got to get more playmakers. And they drafted one guy, Keon Coleman, who was up and down like the Dow Jones Industrial. But again, the general manager has got to procure the talent for the coach. I agree with you. I think that, and Josh Allen had a horrible game against Denver. Did he not?
No, worst game of his career, high school, college.
And you know what? I'm tired of people saying, Josh Allen, he's a franchise quarterback. He's not even got to the Super Bowl yet in his career. So, I mean, again, everybody ballyhoos how good Josh Allen is. You got to look at it. I mean, if you were to rip Lamar Jackson, who's never got to the Super Bowl, you got to rip Josh Allen, do you not?
Well, you got two coaches that both got fired.
Right, exactly.
Because they didn't get their teams to the Super Bowl or even close. You know,
they were home for the holidays.
No question. Roger?
Yeah. Well, what's your gut feeling of what's going to happen about the OC with the Eagles, Bill?
Roger, that's a great question. I'm not in the meetings, and you hear things on the internet, this guy, that guy, this guy. It all comes down to the comfort level with Nick Sirianni Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie with a new offensive coordinator. And how much power will he have? That's the key. How much power will he have? Vic Fangio runs the defense. Nobody messes with. You see, the perfect scenario would be a guy who has no desire to be a head coach in the NFL. That would mean an older person. You know, Frank Reich is out there. He's like an advisor to Andrew Luck at Stanford. Coached there for a year now. They bring a new coach in. But that's the type of guy you would like to have who's going to be around for a couple of years, who's going to be able to implement his system and have that system implemented for 2 or 3 years.
Let's come. We've pretty much covered the Eagles top to bottom. Let's go to New England, Bill. How about the coaching job that was done up there and the quarterback, the way he has evolved over the last couple of years?
I don't want to take anything away from Mike Vrabel, but he had a very, very easy schedule this year. Next year, he'll get a very difficult schedule.
Right.
Will he be able to take another step forward? Or will he be back to neutral? Or did he take a step backwards? This will be very important. And this is a very important game for Vrabel. Jared Stidham, who's 0-3 as a starter in the National Football League, will face New England on Sunday. I would be shocked if New England doesn't win the game. Shocked. So this would be the upset of all upsets.
Yeah.
Roger?
No, I was just saying, Bill. So will Don, Frank, and myself. We'll be shocked if they don't win that game.
Let me tell you something. That's like David against Goliath. Come on, be honest. I mean, it's a pretty good New England defense. May is not going to have the type of game. And now, he did not play well in that Houston Texans game. I mean, he caught the ball up a few times, too. But, you know, May versus Jared Stidham, it's like Secretary against a Clydesdale.
The only thing I say, and you say I should be shocked, and I think we'd all be shocked because we looked at it statistically and say this can't happen with a guy that's had three starts in the National Football League in his career. But, you know, the one thing about Denver, they got one of the great coaches. I mean, I think this guy, when he was in New Orleans and now that he's in Denver, this guy can coach.
Oh, no question about it. No question. He has a very good handle with quarterback.
Right.
Now, of course, Drew Brees will be inducted in the Hall of Fame this year, the whole deal. But he had a very, very good way with himself as far as handling, and he was able to identify Bo Nix as the guy that will lead in the promised land. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen this year, but Peyton is an outstanding coach, to say the least.
So I just have to say he has got the biggest play chart board I've ever seen. And when you have little tags coming out of it like he has, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Well, it takes him about 5 days to put that play sheet together.
Yeah, it did.
Really, do you see, you say New England, we're all saying New England, we've done the show now for an hour
Seattle
before you
beat
came.
the Rams. Seattle.
That's my feeling, too. I think Seattle will beat them. I think Seattle's the best team in the National Football League.
Defensively, they really get after it. Really get after it. Now, Matthew Stafford had a good game against the Bears, but, you know, the Bears gave them that game. Let's be honest. What were they throwing the ball downfield for, that interception? They were within 10 yards of field goal. And then the Rams decided to do the same thing. I'm saying, why are they throwing just little intermediate throws? Get in field goal range, get the field goal, get the hell out of there.
I couldn't agree more. I'm sitting there watching. I'm saying, what are they doing? And the same things happen, you know, in not just one game, but 2 games. I mean, you don't need 30 yards. You only need 10, 15 yards. You got to shot at the field goal, win the game, and get out of there.
Exactly. Sometimes this passing game, like Woody Hayes once said, 3 things will happen when you throw the football, and 2 are bad. Incompletion or interception. But today, we want to throw the ball all over the lot. and that's what bothers me. If you have a good, solid running game and you minimize your throws, you're in great shape, I believe.
Roger, you're up.
Well, I agree with you. The thing that gets me, I get frustrated, is with first down run right into the middle of the line. And it's rare that you really get a big gain out of that first down play.
Well, it's like a boxer. They're trying to test out the middle of the defensive line. I believe if you come out in a game, a big game, to go on top early. I mean,
right.
Down the sideline. If it's incomplete, fine, but you give that message to the team, we're not afraid to go down deep. And I think if you do that, even if it's incomplete, Roger, Don, you make sure that one of those safeties is going to be cheating up to the line of scrimmage, and that opens it up for your wide receivers.
Let me take Jump Sports, because you're on top of everything that's happening in the Philadelphia area. We talk about the Eagles, we talk about the Phillies and so forth. So right now, let's talk about the Phillies. What do you think with where they stand right now, the things that they've done or the things that they haven't been able to do? What do you think?
Don, are we running the same team back this year?
Basically. I think pretty much so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bichette obviously pulled a fast one on Dave Dombrowski in the Phillies. They thought they had a deal done. Bichette got a better deal from Mr. Cohen, and he decided to abandon ship and go up to New York. The other thing is they lost Ranger Suarez. They don't know about the health of Zach Wheeler. He can be throwing the ball well on the sidelines, but that's not pressure situation. And will Aaron Nola return to form? And it's time for Andrew Pater to be a factor.
Right.
But the other thing is, who's your left fielder? Brandon Marsh? Is that your left fielder? Or do you have to go out and get somebody else? Are they going to try to trade Alec Baum to move Ace Miller at third base? I mean, there's a lot of still moving parts on this team. I just think you're running back the same team that in the last 3 years was knocked out of the playoffs. And that's what's frustrating. And do they change their approach in the postseason? I mean, last year, Turner, Schwarber, Harper combined 3 for 35. Not acceptable, gentlemen. Not acceptable.
Roger?
Yeah, do you want to go over the honorees tonight, Don, Bill, at the Sports Writers?
You can go over, Roger. Go ahead.
Okay. I got it right here. Okay. Let's see. Special achievement, Mel Greenberg. Okay.
Absolutely.
And Don, your old neighbor, is presenting the award. Val Ackerman, the Big East commissioner. All right. His son, Fran McCaffrey, former coach at Lafayette, right? Stan Hoffman Award, Jack McCaffrey. Hopefully Jack's feeling well.
He's in attendance tonight.
Mackenzie Burke, the Good Guy Award, Rob Thompson, the manager of the Phillies. Association Good Guy, and then the living legend, Dave Schultz, the Hammer. Comedian Joe Conklin, Bill Campbell Award, Kevin Nagandi of ESPN, Philly Guy, Bucks County and Temple. And Team of the Year, the two teams of the year, Philadelphia Eagles, Villanova football, living legend, the Sixers, Jermaine Jones, and Lou Scheinfeld, Scheinfeld, I should say, being honored. And we all know how important Lou Scheinfeld was to the success of the
and he's trying to get, I don't know if he got it done, but he's trying to get a Philadelphia Hall of Fame. I don't know if it's finished, if he's working on it, but he had talked to me a couple of years about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had him on and several years back about it. And it's supposedly down there by the stadium complex.
Right.
You know, One of those warehouses.
Has it opened up yet?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, Billy, we can't leave Philly without talking about the 76ers, because every time we talk about the 76ers, they're being fined for something, or they're doing something. They're doing something you don't expect to happen in pro sports. Go ahead.
It's absolutely amazing. $100 million on the bench last night against the Phoenix Suns. Are you kidding me? I mean, when you talk about basketball, I get back to the days of Wilton Norman Chamberlain, who played every minute of every game, all right? Or Michael Jordan, who played 330 some consecutive games. These guys can't play 3 consecutive games, let alone do what these guys are doing. I mean, how can you, in being honest with yourself, say, as the owner of a club, and say, this is the product we're putting out tonight. We're putting out the backups. That's what you're telling the fans, and you're paying top dollar for that. And I believe the NBA was smart. Here's what happened. A situation like that with the Sixers last night, you're fined a substantial amount of money, $100,000, not going to get it done. But also, you may lose a draft pick, a first-round draft pick,
Right.
if you do this again. I think that'll open their eyes up a little bit. Because if you continue to get down this road, you're just driving people away.
But again, Billy, my argument with all sports.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. You ready to go?
You caught me right at the right time. I just finished fixing my... It's taken me 6 hours, but I think I fixed it.
Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah, we're just finishing up with Billy Warndell.
All right.
A first-round draft pick. That'll open their eyes up.
Well, how about all the money these people pay for these seats, and they go in, and 2 of the top players aren't going to play? They don't even know it.
And how about refunding those? How about giving half the money back? Because you're only getting half the product.
You're right. You're right there.
Well, I mean, come on. You 2 superstars set out. You paid $150 for the ticket. Now it's $75.
Not only that, but sometimes Embiid plays and doesn't play. I mean, he's on the floor, but he doesn't play. I mean,
he got 9 rebounds the other night. I think 30 minutes. Wilt Chamberlain got 9 rebounds in the first quarter.
Yeah.
All right, and I anybody that compares Wilt to Embiid, or they try to make the comparison, yeah, he can shoot a little better from outside. But let me tell you something. He could never be the offense.
Hey, bud, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, same old crap every day.
That's right.
How's sports this weekend?
We won our game last weekend, so we're 6-1.
Nice.
And then we have to play the team that beat us this coming Saturday. I'm assuming we'll get that in. It's during the day, so I'm guessing we'll play that one, but then we're going to have to hunker down here. I think I've been watching the Weather Channel here for a little bit. It looks like quite a bit of snow's going to move through the area. And so, I think Sunday's a snow out. I think Monday probably is too. So,
Okay.
I think the bigger concern here, I think, is what I'm seeing at the tail end of this. It could turn to a little bit of sleet and freezing rain and shit like that. So
that's not good.
Loss of power is not something I'm interested in.
No. I'm going to put your mic live and let everybody know you're here.
Thank you.
We were going to have Fran on with us, and the job that he's trying to do out there to reconstruct the program and bring LaSalle back into at least competition with, St. Joe's and the rest of the schools in Philadelphia in the Big Five. And Frank, you're sitting there listening to us right now. You saw the story in the Inquirer. I did not. Billy probably did as well. What did they have to say in the Inquirer today, Frank?
It was mostly talked about how Fran had didn't know what was going on with one of his players, who had come in there from another school and had 28 indictments on point shaving. So Fran was talking.
28.
Yeah, they got
players,
they had 20.
Yep.
Yeah.
Their careers are over.
Yes.
Over.
Yep. Yeah.
I know they're not high-profile players.
No.
But this brings the other thing in. The NIL money, these guys today say, hey, I'm not going to jeopardize this. But the lower Division 1, Division 2 players are not getting that kind of money.
Right.
They figured, hey, fights up a game and they make a lot of money.
Yep. The one game they said he made $10,000.
Look what Archie Manning gave back to the University of Texas this year because, he was making so much money with the no money that, he had to give it back to make some money available for other people.
Well, that was smart. That was very smart because he'll get better players.
Yeah.
But, that's the other thing about the NCAA. You talk about hypocrites. That Mark Emmert, who was allowed this situation, he's off in the sunset somewhere, the former head of the NCAA. He should have said, we got to get in front of this instead of behind it. They sued Sonny Vaccaro every chance they could until they lost the Supreme Court. That guy has been a detriment to collegiate athletics.
Billy, explain a little bit because maybe you mentioned Sonny on the show here, but most people listening don't know who Sonny is.
Sonny Vaccaro was the guy that signed Michael Jordan with Nike many, many years ago. He also was the guy that spearheaded the drive with Ed O'Bannon's name, image, and likeness. And he said, look, you can't just have these guys play, supposedly getting an education. That's for another day. But he said, look, you have to compensate these players. Some way, somehow. The universities can't be pocketing all this money. And they were pocketing all this money. The hell with the Terrell Pryor at Ohio State was nailed because he was selling his jersey. The school's making all the money off the kid's jersey. The kids get nothing. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, there's a litany of problems. And Sonny brought it to the forefront. And they said, look, you guys better do something about it. And Mark Emmert and his band of merry men said, nah, you guys will lose. They lost every case, the NCAA in court. They're 0 for 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Billy,
let me tell you something. I see student athletes at the NCAA convention. I want to puke. Because all these guys transferring from school to school, you think they're going to classes, gentlemen?
Maybe for one semester.
Billy, here's a question. Maybe. You hit the nail on the head. The kid from the quarterback from Miami hasn't gone to class in 2 years. He's registered for 6 credits.
He hasn't attended a class in 2 years. You're right, Frank.
And he's making $4 million a year.
Yeah. He graduated 2 years ago, he said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They haven't proved it yet.
2 years.
Yeah.
They're trying to change the red shirt to have 5 years of eligibility. That's it.
Well, they just did a big thing on the kid from Virginia. I mean, you're supposed to be a highly strong academic university with all the credentials in the world, and they wanted a guy to get 7 years over there.
Well, I mean, John, it's a farce. It's a real farce.
Yeah.
But the NCAA has to be held accountable. They're a weak organization. Don't give me student athlete. You don't care about the student athlete.
Well, Billy,
you don't care about making money.
As always, Billy, I want to thank you very much for a great half hour. And we touched on so many different things and so many different topics, as we always do. Give us your, as I always do at the end of the program when you're on, give us your ID when you come on the air, and the people can pick you up either on the computer or whatever way they want to pick you up, AM, FM, whatever. Give them your numbers.
95.3 WCHE on the FM dial, WCHE 1520 on the AM dial, 95.3 WCHE.com, premium worldwide. You always can follow me on X, Thorndale, WERNDL. And let me say one thing, Don. I really appreciate what you did today, coming off the bench like John Howard did back in the day, and nailed the life. Way to go, Don. Thank you.
Anytime I can be on with you, I always learn something, Billy. So that's the best part of it. Our relationship has always been great for 50 years.
I know. It's a long time, Don.
You got it, partner.
You had hair. I remember that hair.
I can't remember that.
We all had hair. Right. Yeah.
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Take care, Bill. God bless. Take care, Billy. We'll get together again soon. All right, let's jump ship down because we always put the next two guys together because we talk from Baltimore, we talk from Washington. Mike Simchek's always in the Baltimore area, and of course our PGA professional, our master PGA professional, which is Doug Hamilton, and he's in the Baltimore, Washington area as well. So we talk about the Ravens, we talk about the Orioles, we talk about everything happening in Baltimore and Washington with these two fellas. And Doug, let's start off with you. The Giants signed your former coach for $100 million. It just seems unbelievable to me the money that's being spent now. And he went from Baltimore with the Ravens to the Giants for $100 million.
It's a nice payday, I tell you. I've always said, you see these college coaches. What Brian Kelly was one of them that got fired, and I'd like to get a 5-year deal and get canned after 2 years and just live off the money for the other 3. I mean, that'd be great. But yeah, no, look, Harbaugh's 63 years old. He moved immediately, to try to remain in the coaching circle, and maybe a part of him should have waited. Maybe he could have gotten the Buffalo job. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I'll take $100 million in my back pocket, and I guess he's got his guy in Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors, and the family I think has some ties. I think that was a realistic connection that we had talked about in previous weeks, that those dots kind of aligned themselves. So, I think the bigger question here in Baltimore is, the Ravens have interviewed at least 16 different people for the head coaching vacancy. And, I don't know that we're a little bit closer probably than where we started, but I think they've narrowed their searches down to some second interviews. And I know the Jesse Minter guy was in the building today. I think there's some rumors suggesting he's their next head coach. I've heard that he probably wants to add a little bit of continuity to his staff. I'm thinking Greg Roman is probably going to be his offensive coordinator and reunite with Lamar Jackson as he did several years ago. I don't know how I feel about that. I didn't really particularly care for Greg Roman as an offensive coordinator. There's nothing innovative whatsoever about his style, but maybe this takes us back to the identity that we need to reestablish, which is hopefully going to be some physical, tough, hard-nosed defense, good special teams as always, and a powerful run game. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen here.
Mike, the Commanders are making some coaching changes in the and their head coach as well. What are your thoughts on what's happening with the Commanders so far?
Nothing. That's it. There's really, they interviewed Brian Flores. He was the only head coach that they've interviewed, but he's the only. The Commanders were the only defensive coordinator position that Brian Flores has interviewed for. He's interviewing for head coaching positions.
Right.
And he feels like he can get one of these 6 gigs that's still out there. We haven't heard much about who they've interviewed for offensive or defensive coordinator outside of Brian Flores. The names are starting to kick off the board, but I don't think those guys, Mike McDaniels, Brian Daboll, were the ones that they were going to get anyway. So it's kind of a wait and see sort of thing coming from Ashburn.
Roger?
Yeah, I thought that they would have had a replacement for the OC, and by now. But I wanted to both of you. Are you status when you lose a coach? Okay. And you have to see who on your favorite team, your home team, and now you see who their competitor is. The Steelers are your competitor, Doug. Okay, probably the main competitor, and it looks like maybe Mike McCarthy may wind up as the head coach there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is that a question? I mean,
well, my feeling is the guy's won a Super Bowl, but as he does anything else, and the thing is, he didn't do much in Dallas. But of course, Jerry Jones lost a lot of that the claim there with the situation. So. I was just wondering what your thoughts are as if you had a choice, who would you have to replace, John as the head coach of the Ravens?
I think that's a pointed question, one that the people here in Baltimore, and we've talked about this in the past with regard to, I go back to Brendan Hyde, and everybody kept, all the staunch Oriole fans kept saying, let's fire Brendan Hyde because of the season start that we had, etc. Well, it's not. I don't think it's always as easy as saying let's go ahead and like hit the reboot button, because number one, you have to find a candidate. The Orioles obviously just promoted from within to get through last season, and now they have their new guy. John Harbaugh was there for 18 years, and now you have to start all over. I mean, what are you looking for? Because I think there's some pretty glaring needs if you look at the Ravens defensively. They squandered a bunch of double-digit leads. They had virtually no pass rush. They weren't a very physically imposing team. Struggled mightily at various points in times during the season with regard to protecting leads of any nature. I know that they had some injuries, but I mean, do you want an offensive mind? Like, I've heard the connection between Anthony Weaver being the Nets head coach and him having Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator. I think you need to have a strong defensive presence there, but I think you need to have somebody who's going to be able to know what to do with Lamar Jackson and to take him to the next level offensively. Personally, I don't think Greg Roman is that guy. I don't know how Mike could probably jump in here with regard to Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, he didn't have much when he was in Arizona as a head coach. Kyler Murray wasn't the answer. Offensively, he didn't have a whole lot of weapons to utilize. I think the guy knows offense. I think he knows football, but does he have the right players around him? What could he do with Lamar Jackson? I don't know. I mean, Baltimore has the 14th overall pick. They have some pretty glaring needs, internally. I think offensive line, guard positions, they need a pass rusher in the worst way. I've heard some dumbass rumors that have been circulated on Twitter with regard to the Ravens trading Lamar Jackson to the Raiders for the first overall pick plus. I don't believe any of that. Obviously, Steve Bisciotti has mentioned that Lamar Jackson is going to be involved in the head coach hiring process. So I don't find any credence to that. But back to my original point, I really don't know what I want. I mean, that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like, I want some guy that's going to come in here and start the culture all over again and have the Baltimore Ravens win and get back to being a physical, hard-nosed football team. I think that's what I want.
Mike, I think one thing you can say about the Commanders and the Ravens as well, both teams had the opportunity during the course of the season to blame what happened as far as their failure to get to the playoffs was all based on the quarterback. Of course, the quarterback in Washington had a sensational rookie year, was the rookie of the year. Unfortunately, Jackson had a number of injuries during the course of the year, and he was backed up in Harbaugh's picture as well. Both quarterbacks, it was easy for people to point fingers and say, well, they would have won if the quarterback had done this, if that had been. That's not the case. As you say, Doug, you need more. It's not just a quarterback. Quarterback, you need to win, but you got to have some support.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need the right players, and Doug brought it up. Well, Roger brought it up, and Doug was answering the question as he's supposed to. But I think we think sometimes too much about offensive guy, defensive guy. Well, they had an offensive guy last time, so they need to get a defensive guy this time. Or, this has always been a defensive team, so we need to get the defensive guy in here. I think you go in and you look and you hire the best person for the job and let them build a staff to execute their vision for the team. And if it's offense, it's offense. If it's defense, it's defense. The guy who's going to look at those 53 people have the best vision and be able to execute it. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. He wasn't an offensive guy. He wasn't a defensive guy. I don't think anybody can exactly remember what Mike Tomlin coached before he coached the Steelers. I think he was one season as defense coordinator in Minnesota. So you take the guy who's the best person for the job, bring him in, the one who's going to fit your culture or who has a vision for the culture that meshes best with what you want. So, right now, bringing this back to the Commanders, Dan Quinn has a vision for what he wants his offense to look like. He wants it to be an offense that's led by the run game, that is going to pass, that's going to have elements that enable Jaden Daniels to use his legs, but there's not going to be overly risky, especially on design runs for the quarterback, because they don't want to put him in danger. When he's looking at coordinators, he needs to make sure that the person who he hires aligns with what he wants, because it was clear throughout their tenure that this relationship in between Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn, what Cliff had his vision for how he wanted to run an offense, and Dan had a vision for what he wanted, and they weren't the same thing. Last year it works because they won. This year, when you're not winning, it doesn't work. So making sure if it's a coordinator, they're aligned with what you're looking to do and they have a vision that can work for the players that you have. When it comes to the Ravens and their head coaching search, it could be Jesse Minter. It could be, Sean McDermott's out on the street. You can say that he didn't win with the Buffalo Bills, but he got to the playoffs 8 out of 9 years. And if I remember correctly, Andy Reid didn't win a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but he's won a couple of since. So just because the guy didn't get over the hump at his first stop doesn't mean that he can't do it at his second. I think both teams, I know the Steelers would be interested in Brian Flores. I think Mike McCarthy for them would be more of a bridge coach. He doesn't necessarily fit the mold of what I'm used to for the Steelers doing. It looks to me more like a short-term hire, but maybe that's the direction. Only the Roonies know, and only Steve Bisciotti knows what they're looking for when they're hiring their next head coach.
Doug?
Yeah, I think that kind of paints it into light. I wholeheartedly agree with the fact that obviously, John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. I think he coached maybe defensive backs prior to that, but he was always able to assemble staffs full of people that, I'm going back, pre-John Harbaugh, even back to Brian Billick. I loved me some Marvin Lewis. He was a fabulous defensive coordinator. Rex Ryan. I liked him because he was in your face and aggressive. They've had other people that have been in those, Mike Nolan, other people that have been in those situations. I just didn't think Zachary Orr was the right answer for the Ravens over the last couple seasons. As Mike would allude to here as well, you kind of want somebody, we'll say on the younger side, at least in my opinion, so that you can, get some longevity out of them and continue that culture. I'm not looking for a short-term, solution here. I think the Ravens probably still have their eyes set on a couple guys still left in the playoffs. I think Clint Kubiak is one that they're looking at, obviously. Gary Kubiak was our offensive coordinator, I think, for one season. Kubiak's no football, as the Shanahans and McDays do. LaFleur's, all those guys. So they're probably going to sniff out the guy that they wanted as their secondary choice, and then obviously take a look at some of these guys left over in the playoffs as well.
Roger? Yeah, John
John Harbaugh and Sean McDermott, were on Andy Reid's staff together. And John Harbaugh, you're right, Doug, he was the special teams coordinator, and then Andy made him the defensive backs coordinator or the defensive back coach to get that experience before he became a head coach. But if you look at the Andy Reid, we've talked about it a million times. If you look at the Andy Reid coaching tree, it's far superior to Bill Belichick, pretty much anybody. But I personally do not think you'll ever see the longevity of in Pittsburgh that you have in Pittsburgh, and also in Baltimore, that you'll ever see again in the NFL. It's just it's just not the way it is anymore, in my opinion.
Roger, following up on that, if it is that way, then you don't. Then again, you focus more on who looks best now, not who might develop into who's going to have the best career, whose career arc predicts the best. Because, like you said, I'm with you. I don't know that we're going to see a coach anymore getting to the late teens. I don't think that we may see one get to the double digits as frequently, let alone the late teens. The way that we so. Hire, if you want a new guy, then get a new guy. If you feel like Ben Johnson's the best option, then go get Ben Johnson. But if you feel like somebody like a Mike McCarthy, who's a more steady hand, who has that experience, is what's best right now, I think that we got to be these owners. I wonder sometimes I wonder if they're even fully aware of what it is that they want to be able to go out and make sure that they get the right guy to do what they're looking for them to do.
Well, let's not forget. I said this before, that Steve Bisciotti's a gazillion dollar owner of was it Aerotech. How many people do you think he's interviewed? How many people do you think he's talked to? How many employees do you think he had to report to him? How many upper level management people did he count on? I mean, he knows what he's looking for in an interview, and he knows what he's looking for in a person. And I think that's the one rule. Like, I always went back to when I was hiring my staff of assistants. It's my job to train them. It's my job to teach them. But I want the person. I want the work ethic. I want the personality. I want the intelligence. I want, the I give a shit attitude. You know what I mean? Like, I want that. I can teach them the rest of that. So
yeah, it's like being on a date. You're going to know it when you see it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I can't disagree with that. I think you have to have a pretty good idea of what you want before you start looking, and then you look at the qualifications, and then you look at the work ethic that they put in, and the time, effort, and energy that is going to get you into a position to be a major asset to your organization. I think there's no question about that. Let's quickly just jump. Because we're running out of time, and we got a real big weekend coming up this weekend. Two big games. We'll start with you, Doug, and who do you like this weekend?
I mean, I got to tell you that I was rooting for Houston last weekend because their defense was just abnormally good. You know what I mean, in terms of how they swarmed to the football and how they tackled. It was a shame to see them lose. I think Denver's going to be up against it with a backup quarterback. So unfortunately, I think that Sean Payton's a good enough head coach that I think he can figure something out. Their defense is pretty good, but I think you'd have to give the edge to New England. I think the Seahawks defense is absolutely disgusting. I mean, they had the 49ers, and Shanahan knows football. He knows offense. They couldn't do, in the words of Jim Moore, they couldn't do diddly poo. I mean, they could not do anything against that Seahawks defense. So I think we're going to see a Seattle New England Super Bowl, and I think that the Seahawks are going to be your champions.
I got to agree with that, Mike.
Yeah, I'll third that. I don't know that. I agree. Sean Payton's a good enough head coach. The Broncos defense is really good. I just don't know that they find a way to score enough points, given the limitations that they have to beat New England. line says it's pretty much a pick 'em. But I just like Seattle's defense a little bit more. And although I am a little bit worried, they are down to their last running back in Kenneth Walker, and I think he's going to be backed up by some guy that they picked up at Pike's Coffee tomorrow because they have nobody in that room.
Sam Darnold worries me just a little bit because, I mean, he's been solid. He was solid when he was in Minnesota, but when they got to the playoffs, boy, he was a different quarterback. So, I mean, I find it hard to. We're all waiting for the implosion. Right. Absolutely. That's my only question.
Well, Rodgers he's in the same ballpark. He likes Seattle, and Payne's done a terrific job in Denver, and unfortunately, when you lose a quarterback like he did, and you're going into the playoffs, I'll be shocked if he comes up with a defensive game plan that covers up the quarterback that he's played with. It will amaze me. But I think they're the two teams that have to get to the Super Bowl, and it would surprise me if it doesn't happen that way.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Exactly.
Well, Mike, is there anything on I don't want to bypass soccer. Is there anything on the soccer front that you want to touch on? Nobody knows more about soccer than you do, so if there's something you want to touch on.
Yeah, I'll probably do this more as we get into February because MLS is getting ready to start training camp. It's hard to believe that the season's going to start pretty soon, but there have been a lot of changes. Looking over at the Philadelphia Union, they've made for a team that finished with the best record in Major League Soccer in Bradley Carnell's first season. They've made a ton of changes. That team's hard to recognize, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go. The big spenders, for the first time in a long time, are DC United. They've put together what looks to be a solid off-season, but it's high risk, high reward. They've made a lot of expensive signings, but I've seen that with Atlanta. And if those don't mesh well right off the gate, you could be off to a rough start. So as the teams start to round off, I'll be able to give a bit more of a preview. But it's definitely been a bit of an eventful off-season for MLS teams.
And very quickly, your all-time leading hockey scorer. Many articles this week about whether he's going to sign another contract. He's coming to the end. Is he going to go back to Russia and play over there, or is he going to play at all? What's your thought there, quickly?
I have always believed that this personally. I've always thought that this was going to be his last year. That after this season, he was going to hang it up and go back and play over in the KHL. It's always something that he's expressed that he wants to do. Based on, being able to go and do it. The kids are at an age where I think he might want them to spend some more time in Russia. So that's always been my supposition. I believe that one way or another we'll hear something after the All-Star break. The fact that he hasn't said anything yet doesn't surprise me. He's not exactly the type to want a lot of fanfare. And so the longer it goes without an announcement, the more I think that the announcement is going to be just in the end.
Tick-tick-tock, tick-tick-tock.
Well, quickly, back to Baltimore. And, Doug, your Orioles, are you happy with what they've done? Or are you that's where they are right now as opposed to last year?
I think we're in better shape than we were, obviously, last season. I think they're not done yet, and I think it'll be interesting to see how the roster comes to completion as we get to pitchers and catchers reporting here. So there's still a couple big names left. I think there's still a couple moves that have to be made in terms of trades or from surplus positions. So I think I'm excited about where we are, but I think I'm more excited about the unknown of where we can be.
Tick-tock.
Yep.
Okay.
Happy birthday to Jack Nicklaus. 86 today, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations to Jack Nicklaus. And I'll tell you, watch that Hawaii tournament this weekend. It's really something to watch. But anyway, fellas, thank you very much. We're out of time. I didn't realize the clock was clicking that quickly. But we'll get together again next week. Thank you so very much, Doug. Always a pleasure. Mike, thank you very much. We'll do it with you, let's say. And, of course, Roger back there in Atlanta, he lost another football coach. And we didn't get a chance to talk much about the Atlanta decisions about what they were going to do about their football picture. But anyway, thank you very much. Let's start it over to our Commander-in-Chief, Frank Carroll. Go till, will you sign us off?
Okay, I want to thank everybody for being on with us tonight. As usual, the tremendous job. Ladies and gentlemen, these programs are brought to you each and every night of the week in grateful appreciation to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, the men with police and fire services, the doctors and nurses and first responders to on COVID. We also dedicate these programs, every program, to those who've lost their lives in line of duty. Deputy Robert Anthony Carroll, Patrolman J.V. Curtis, Patrolman Jeffrey Yazowitz, Patrolman Jeffrey Colcap, Sergeant Thomas Batinger, San Diego Officer Mike Hendler, Sergeant Tom Wilson, Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Ricky Childers and Randy Bell, Patrolman Charlie Condit, Tarpon Springs Police Department, Deputy Chief Mike Godwin, Philadelphia Fire Department, Lieutenant Joyce Craig Lewis, Philadelphia Fire Department, Sergeant James O'Connor, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Chris LeVake, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Mike Zerba, Newcastle County Police, Patrolman Anoffa Crispin, Lakeland PD, Deputy Josh Meyer, Nassau County Sheriff's Department, Captain Matt Latoner, Philadelphia Fire Department, Captain Chris Leach, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Ardith Hope, Wilmington Fire Department, Lieutenant Jerry Ficus, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Jimmy Ford, Wilmington Fire Department, Chief Al Hogle, Longbow Key Police Department, Deputy Mike Hargrove, Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, Trooper Chelsea Richards, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Joe Bullock, Florida Highway Patrol, Trooper Zachary Ben, Florida Highway Patrol, Sergeant Chris Fitzgerald, Philadelphia Police Department, Sergeant Ramon Mendez, Philadelphia Police Department, Chief Corey Compantier, Buffalo Creek Fire Department, Deputy Ronnie Ronazinski, Manatee County Sheriff's Department, Patrolman Zachary Butterfield, Bradenton Police Department. My brothers and sisters, although you may be 10-7 at this point in time, sometime we'll be 10-10 at the table of the Lord. Until that time, may the rose rise up to meet you. May the winds be always at your back. May the rains fall softly on your fields and the sun shine lightly on your face. Until we meet again, may the good Lord keep you and your family always in the palm of his hands. Good night. God bless and have a great week.